Hi, parents. Deacon John Wilson here, Education and Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. Here to talk to you a little bit today about what we're saying about the SAT and get you thinking about that process. And a lot of you are asking me questions about should you be testing your student? Is there going to be an SAT? And I think I'm going to be able to put that in perspective for you today. All right. Okay. Once again, uh, I want to thank our bishop and our trustee board for allowing us to provide this important service to you and this ministry to you. I hope it's a blessing to you today as you go through this very brief video. First of all, why was there no SAT in California for class of 2021? The reason was not the College Board. Okay. I want to really dispel that myth. A lot of you think it was the College Board that canceled the SAT, but that's not clear at all. I don't think that's the right way to think about it. Uh, Over 40 states had the SAT consistently enough for class of 2021. Only 3% of students in California, however, were able to test. Why is that? Because there were no test sites. All the schools were closed, and no one thought about alternate plans like using a large venue outside, like a stadium or stadiums. No schools thought about going outside to do it or using social distancing outside or getting a waiver from the state. Nobody thought about that. And as we're learning more and more, that very often in some of these states, California included, a lot of these lockdowns and shutdowns didn't take into account the needs of the students and the youth. And that's something that science does not always support in this situation. And I definitely will do a separate video about that. So there were no test sites because of the governor's orders. And so we didn't have anywhere to take the SAT. So then therefore students didn't take it. Schools were closed since March 2020 due to the governor's orders. Remember, in general, this was a unique situation to California students. Currently, we are still closed. Okay. How did the colleges react to no tests in these 6 to 8 states? Well, these 6 to 8 states were large states for the most part. California, New York, Illinois, and others, New Jersey. These were very large states. Although there were some large states that did open, students did take the SAT when there were not a lot of cases in those states. That's Texas and Florida, for example. But uh, there were very large states that didn't take the test at all or very little. Many colleges went to no test because of that, or significantly reduced testing requirements for the class of 2021. Now, why would they do that? Because, like in the West, California provides up to 40% in some cases of colleges' enrollment in other states. And so they had to do something or risk losing students. And they saw in California colleges weren't going to be open. So they wanted to get open and get those students. So they did reduce their testing requirements um, in the other states. So keep that in mind. Colleges did do something. 78% of them went test optional, meaning, in other words, parents, you didn't have to present test scores. Your student didn't. But if they did, right, the schools will consider them the scores for admission, which did mean probably that at certain schools, that disadvantaged students who didn't take the SAT. The CSUs and UCs no longer require the SAT. Many other schools will not for class of 2022. In fact, here's a complete list so far of the schools that will not require the SAT, we believe, in 2022. There's a website, www.fairtest.org, www.fairtest.org. I'll say it again, www.fairtest.org. That keeps track of such things. You can go there at your leisure. I'll post this on the website with the link if it's not already there. It may actually be there. I'll make sure it's active. Who still requires the SAT for class of 2022? Test optional is the way they're going pretty much. It's theoretically a requirement to test, I believe, you should test for an affordable admission to a selected private college. Because a lot of these schools use the SAT to determine scholarships. They won't tell you that, but they will. And if you have no score, will you be considered the students who do have high scores and high GPAs? Will you be considered for scholarships? I only know of one private school, two actually, that look at one or the other, so they can safely say they will consider you. But most schools look at both. So I think that if there's a selective private college, you pretty much are being forced to test if the school is test optional. Now, if there are no tests, they have other ways of determining scholarships. Test optional is not a requirement for CSU and UC. I'm making sure you know that. I know I mentioned that earlier. Therefore, if your GPA is high enough for selective private college admission, you should take the SAT, and therefore you need the SAT prep too. Okay, so the GPA is high enough. Let's summarize. Okay, what we're going to advise you to do. Students with weighted GPAs of 2.5 to 2.8, okay, uh, really don't need to the SAT. Uh, they need not worry about the SAT. There's no need to be concerned about that. I mean, they don't need to take it, so you don't need prep. Okay, you just need a good CSU application. The CSUs don't even require essays. It's just your GPA that's going to be looked at. So that's what I think about those GPAs. And students, if you're hearing this and you're disappointed, you still have another semester to raise your grades. But remember, I've always said, you get the school you earn, not the one you want. And it's going to be how you use the school anyway. It's not about the name of the school. Please understand that, students. Students with weighted GPAs of 3.4 to 3.8, and they want to apply to selective private college or to selective private colleges, uh, we believe that those students should take the SAT, those 3.4 to 3.8 students. They need to take the SAT. We believe also that most students in between these GPAs should avoid the SAT and the prep for affordability reasons. Not affordability of the prep, affordability of the school. They will not get high enough merit awards to make selective private college or out-of-state public college even close to be affordable for their students. I hope that helps you, parents, in thinking about this. If you have any questions, get a hold of me. You know how to do that. I'll be glad to answer your questions. There'll be another couple of view graphs that are part of the roadmap of college that we weren't able to cover in the meeting. I plan on doing a separate video of that meeting. I'll release that on Monday or Tuesday. God bless you, parents.